Fantastic. So, hello everyone, and it's a very interesting feeling for me today because I've been emceeing the track yesterday and the virtual stage yesterday and today. But it is now time for me to deliver something very, very interesting and cool to you. And I'm going to be talking about community consultancy, how you can find your niche, how you can get set, and how you can go. So, my name is Ilker Akansel. As you may have already guessed, I am hailing from Istanbul, Turkey. That is my hometown, and certainly very, very excited to deliver this talk to you, and especially for people who are intending to make the jump into the community consultancy. So I'm going to try and make this as light and fun as possible because this is what community work should be. Certainly, people who know me, they're probably saying, there's something really, really amazing or really awful coming up. Hopefully, it'll be the former. But it is divided in acts, of course. Please also, by the way, if you're intending to become a community consultant, or if you're a consultant who's actually got some feedback on the things that I'm going to be talking to you about, please feel free to engage in the chat. I would absolutely love that, by profession, by position, by a consultant, by anything. So 3 acts. Let's talk about consulting, becoming a community consultant, and the final acts, of course, some do's and don'ts on community consultancy. I believe that this could be the very, very, very first focused session on community consultancy. Of course, there's books and there's material on the web and other things, but I'm really, really honored if this was the very first one that is completely focused on community consultancy in the history of CMX Summit. May stand corrected, I may not, you never know. So why am I standing in front of you virtually, just delivering this talk to you? There's been, of course, a lot of interesting developments. In the 1990s, there was the rise of management consultancy. Of course, it existed before, but it was basically, it became a thing in the 90s. And you will understand why I'm, so connected to management consultancy in that context. And in 2000s, I'm old enough to remember, spoiler alert in the age, the dot-com boom and the era of the internet actually arrived and changed things dramatically. Little did we know, and we just thought that it was a passing fad, but of course it wasn't. So in 2010s, especially after some seminal work from people like Tim Ferriss, there's been a lot of talk about being a freelancer, being a remote worker, and of course, the communications technology and social media came, to a certain level of maturity. And of course, we fast forward to 2020. Of course, we don't want to talk about the pandemic, but it actually changed a lot of interesting things. So we were always talking about community beforehand, but it just came under the spotlight so quickly, especially with the online communities, trying to support people during times of hardship during the pandemic. And of course, that led to an interesting time where we're actually resigning from jobs that we always thought that, was going to be forever. And then it became a great rethink. And right now we're seeing an interesting time of adjustment, which of course is also referred to as great layoffs. But just like everything in life, every calamity, every problem actually brings a number of opportunities. So that's the reason why a lot of people are trying to get into the community consultancy work. My journey, I'd love to share a little bit more about. I was an intern at Arthur Andersen. Let's see if there are dinosaurs like me, remembering what Arthur Andersen was. That was the biggest consultancy company on the planet. That became Andersen Consulting, and it was torn to pieces due to a number of issues that they experienced in the early 2000s. But I was an intern there in the late 90s, and that's where I got my first taste in consultancy. Fast forward many, many years in different sectors, and I found a job at the London Olympic Games, of all things, and I became a games maker, one of the people who actually trained the volunteers and led them through this fantastic occasion. If you ever have the opportunity to work at an Olympic Games, please do. So that gave me the first taste in managing people who are centered around a certain concept, game, or event, or like a community, basically. So that was the first taste, and I just thought, this could be something interesting around here. And then I went on to become a consultant and project manager in banking and telecom. Sounds a bit boring, but then I managed to make a jump to the community world straight away by becoming a programs coordinator of developer ecosystem programs, developer ecosystem community work at Google, which actually made me think, this is something that is future-proof, that is spectacular. It's very, very playing well to my strengths. So I should be going into community and I should be going into consultancy, just marrying a lot of the things that are in my background. Then in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, with all the uncertainty on the planet, I founded ilkerakansel.com, which is my consultancy. I'm working under my name, basically. And I specifically wanted to focus on community strategy with a number of other people whom I'll mention in a couple of minutes. And I'm partnering with Todd. You may have heard from Todd yesterday. He was talking about talent community strategy, which is just a wonderful thing that we developed together. So I'm a partner with him. And I founded the CMX Connect Istanbul chapter, which is one of the chapters of the CMX Connect network around the world, right in 2020. I'd love to do a little bit of a shameless plug of my chapter because it's a volunteer chapter. It's a lovely chapter. It's the only one in existence in Turkey in community management. These are my wonderful, absolutely amazing co-hosts over here, Esra, Özge, Ceren, and Gizem. If you're listening, you are absolute stars. If you want to join, because we're a virtual chapter, we don't exclusively ask people to join from Istanbul or Turkey or wherever. This is the link that you can actually follow to join the chapter, and of course, be with us along our chapter journey. So enough of me and my background and everything else. So let's talk a little bit about consulting. So what is this thing? I just wanted to put that in because the consultancy, a lot of people just immediately think snake oil sellers. So what is snake oil sellers? It's a terminology. It's an idiom to define, people, some scammers, people who are, just doing things or selling things that are not, truly doing what they're supposed to do. So basically, consultants are most of the time referred as the modern snake oil sellers. So in the 18th and the 19th century of Europe, there was this wave of people trying to sell snake oil, which was an ancient Chinese sort of remedy, basically to people just claiming that it actually solved a host of problems, which of course it didn't, and that's where the terminology originated. So the same thing happens with consultants, or happened with consultants these days. Of course, the Anderson crisis didn't really help that either. But consultants today, they're approached with a sense of skepticism. And that's why it's important to talk about what consultancy is and what consultancy isn't first. So let's go for it. What is management consultancy? IMO, in my opinion, or IMHO, in my honest opinion, is an advisory role. Basically, advisory being the key of that is about formulating and asking the right questions to analyze the status, the making a party or a client or stakeholder aware of an issue and opportunity, and design and recommend a custom-made approach or solution. What is important here, in my opinion, is that the consultancy, or being a consultant, it mainly constitutes an advisory role. It's a role where you're recommending, you're suggesting, and you're actually trying to solve something that the client cannot, or trying to make the client aware and trying to get the client to grasp an opportunity that they weren't otherwise aware of, or they just had no opportunity to assess. So this, in essence, is what I think of consultancy. And I believe that this is an important thing to do. It's an important thing to define before we actually go further, because there are a lot of people under the title of consultants who go beyond that, who just change that. Very respectable stuff. But, in my opinion, it is not consultancy. What is not management consultancy? Possibly because it actually falls into other responsibilities and your approach changes. So if it's a permanent role, so this might actually raise a few eyebrows. If it's a permanent role, I do believe that, the consultancy is all about the journey and just walking alongside someone, a company, an organization, an entity, just walking alongside them and just leading them through a period of uncertainty. So it is a unique journey, but it's a temporary journey. So if it's a permanent role, if you're a permanent consultant at a company, I really don't think that it actually, fulfills the role. So it usually is a temporary assignment which ends when the project is completed, when the assignment is completed. If it's an executive role, then your priority changes. Then you start, looking after the company's operational and executive targets. But mainly the focus, in my opinion, of a consultant should be the project of consultancy, that journey where they're just leading the clients from point A to B, get them to develop, get them to overcome something. So that's why there's no execution, there's no operation. If there's execution, there's operations, there's different KPIs, there's different corporate politics as well. So these are the things that actually, in my opinion, blur the consultant's vision. And if it's a sales role, if there's a sales consultant, that's not a consultancy role. It's a sales representative, a sales manager, whatever. If you're selling something, then your bias actually changes a lot. So it's never about selling or forcing a certain platform, service, or product. Again, these are the things that, in my opinion, should be kept in mind. I've listed some basic requirements of a consultant, never an exhaustive list, but if you don't have these, it's going to be very difficult. So you need to have some experience in a certain field or vertical so you're believable as a professional. You need to have an affinity within analysis, needs, and requirements cycle. So if you don't like analyzing things, or if you haven't developed an eye, a process, or if you're not following a framework that other people have actually have created that you can actually adopt for your projects, it's going to be very difficult for you to assess a certain situation and come up with solutions. Of course, you need to have a right network of professionals, resources, providers to consult and support, and an appropriate and flexible corporate structure in place. You could be a freelancer, you could be a contractor, or you could, set up your own company. Basically, consultancy actually plays to budgets in companies where, they have a certain expendable budget for a project, and it is usually different than HR. So it's very, very difficult to be recruited as a consultant because there are different constraints there. But if you actually have a corporate structure that you can tag along to a project as an expense, put it that way, definitely it's going to be much easier for you to actually get involved in the project. And lots of patience, which I'm going to go through a little bit more. What skills do you need to become a consultant? Of course, people love to call themselves a consultant, but there are certain, skills, in my opinion, that you should be having. And some of these skills are actually going beyond consultant. It's also the requirements of modern professionals as well. Learning, certainly being a lifelong learner never stops. So a lot of people, when they are working, they just think that they have enough knowledge about their jobs and they never actually grow. But it is never the case of being a consultant. Certainly you need to be on the top of your game, on the top of your vertical, and certainly your area of expertise. So you must be learning, and you must be learning at a very, very quick pace. So you have to come up with a really, really useful way of consuming stuff or learning stuff, and then basically incorporating them in your work. So listening, this is very important. There's the old saying, we don't listen to listen, we listen to reply. You don't want to listen to reply, you just want to listen to learn and to understand. And certainly if you are going to be doing that just to reply or just to try and press your opinion, you will be missing the real issues and opportunities that are usually hidden in answers that are not given. This is what separates good consultants from great consultants. Some observation and analysis skills. So you need to have some analytical skills to understand the issue and opportunity at once. So you just need to spend as little time as possible to understand the issue thoroughly, so that you can actually start moving with your client to the right, towards the right path. And some diligence and discipline actually goes without saying. You need to have some well-established project management skills, some structured processes and deliverables, and highest understanding and assurance of confidentiality. I mean, these may be sort of common sense, but certainly, these are a lot of things that are very, very, very sadly missing from many professionals of today. And if you actually have a solid foundation constituting of these, definitely you are going to be streets ahead, from the competition. Some ethics, of course, you need to be able to deliver as committed. No one, dislikes a consultant who's someone who's not really delivering and just keeps postponing deadlines. You need to have some exemplary personal and business ethics around principles. Again, goes without saying, but you'd be surprised. Treating everyone fairly and providing the right solution models, not the solution for a model that is right for you, but solution model that is right for the client. So this is an important focus point. Some confidence in communication. You need to be able to stand your ground against anyone, against hundreds and thousands of people on virtual, events or whatever, or some executives of highest order from the company, and there's a lot of pressure because they're actually paying you, and whatever they say is really, really key for you to stay in the project. But you really need to have a confidence in portraying what you think is best for the company, and definitely you need to have a highly developed communication and presentation skills. Don't worry if you're an introvert of sorts; they can be acquired, they can be developed, certainly, and the ability to deliver messages concisely, something I'm working on. Anyway, some industry presence and weight. Get some thought leadership in the vertical of choice. You need to continuously produce content and material to contribute to industry. No one will believe you if you're just lurking in the shadows of the internet. You haven't said a word about it, and certainly people do stalk you, so to speak, on the internet before actually committing to your services. So they just want to know that you are able to deliver, and your knowledge, your expertise. Certainly, you can do that through many channels, and you should. And open mind, and of course lateral thinking. So don't be stuck in certain approaches. Don't just say that this is my way or the highway. Just business models and industry standards or in the consultancy processes change. We just had a session with Web3. Of course, that threw a lot of things to the side, and certainly an open mind about what is new and technology-related sectors in particular is key. So we've got the skills, we've got the infrastructure, we've got everything. So let's become a community consultant in, 10, 15 minutes. Hopefully we won't, but, that'll give you, a good set of, points to keep in mind, hopefully. So why is there a need for community consultants? Why are we doing what we're doing right now? Because it's still a young industry with limited understanding all around. People think that, consultancy is a bit of like an alchemy where, we're just, creating something out of nothing. We're not really. The community has been around for ages. And certainly it actually stood underneath community success, sales, or whatever. But now, of course, we're beginning to understand the power of community, and you're there as a consultant. You could be there as a consultant to tell clients. Companies are apprehensive about long-term commitment to incorporating communities. They just want to, dip their toes in the water, as the British, I think, used to say. Certainly, they just want to, give it a try to see, how community can affect their work and can affect their their operations, their profitability, and they're looking for consultants to come in and out to help them do that. Success of community first. We had some wonderful session earlier today, and certainly the community first and community-led startups and initiatives are really raking in massive successes. So Figma was bought by Adobe today, $20 billion, which is not bad. Certainly, people are, happy to know how they can replicate that to some effect. And of course, lots of empty stage spaces and niches to be filled by specialist consultants. So that's the reason why. Is it the right career for you? Some questions will pop into your mind. So let me try and see if I can actually get them in. Is having a stable and predictive income, paycheck, cash flow, corporate benefits, predefined career path, job security, and non-negotiable priority for you? Do you have any issues with devoting a part of your personal and professional life to professional learning, growth, and business development permanently, day in, day out? Do you feel anxious and worried when there's no clear way forward about understanding, analyzing, or troubleshooting something? Or do you feel the need for being coached, supervised, and directed during your professional journey? I had a good friend who was a professional rower, world-class rower, took a lot of first places and podiums in many competitions around the world. When they started a sports management company, they had untold problems because for all their lives, they had a coach telling them what to do. So are you one of those people as well, or are you a self-starter? Or do you fold when faced with disappointment, ambiguity, failure, or adversity instead of focusing? That is an American saying. There are two types of people. There are people who fold, just give away, and there are people who focus. Which side are you on? So if you're saying yes to any of these, it's a reality check. It's important to think again on that one. But let's be more positive on this. So some common questions on becoming a community consultant. Can I become a community consultant even if I never led or was part of a community? Can I become a consultant even if I never worked as a manager or director? Or can I become a consultant even if I never worked as a consultant in any sector or capacity? Or can I become a community consultant even if I never worked as a community professional? So if you don't know who this person is, Jose Mourinho, if you follow soccer, you probably know who he is. But please do Google him if you want to, understand this joke, this sentence. Would say yes to all, but you shall double your efforts, which is a clue as to the remaining parts or some of the themes that are running through this presentation. So any movie geeks probably understood what this is all about. So I wondered if anybody actually got that and just put it on the chat. Okay, so all the questions are answered in the right way. So let's become a community consultant. So you've actually started everything, or you're about to start everything. What should you take care? Did you think about your niche? Did you think about consultancy services related processes? Did you set up your brand presence and network and your client outreach strategy? So let me give you a few tips. Niche difference is a narrow yet deep area of expertise through which you can obtain an unfair advantage. I love that term, to stand out. So there's something about you that me or whoever else is never going to be able to replicate. So just try and find that if you're going to be becoming a community consultant. There's a niche for everything. There was one of my really, really cool friends is starting communities now for world-renowned celebrity. And certainly there's a community for everything. We all know that. Finding and concentrating on a niche is a great way to ensure credibility and expand or create a line of business. Make good use of whatever experience and industries actually you've been in. I've seen archaeology and communities, K-pop and communities, again, all sorts of different communities coming up everywhere. So there's every possibility that you can actually harness the power of community for sure. And make good use of hobbies and personal affinities in setting up a niche. So if you like music production, if you're a musician like myself, or if you like automotive and like myself, certainly there's every opportunity to chase a community consultancy that is focused on that, because really work won't feel like work. You will already have known a lot of things about the industry anyway, which actually gives you that unfair advantage. So number 2, setting up consultancy services and processes. So now you found your niche. Just like the Michelin-starred restaurants, focus on a narrow set of services and deliverables first. Just don't do everything consultancy. Just that's a no-no. So if you go to a good restaurant, you'll just see that they only do a few dishes, but they do them properly. So my tip to you: document-based deliverables, some strategy documents, action plans, project plans, presentations, recommendations that can be tied to a certain methodology that you create, or basically you can actually use. They actually work best. Just try and structure them and standardize them as quickly as possible, and standardize and time process and deliverables as quick as possible, and create cheat sheets and guides for clients for faster progress. So I actually have a cheat sheet for my clients for the consultancy contract. So I just tell them what I'm looking for in a contract. That actually speed things up immensely. That's like one example. You can create cheat sheets for everything. My tip to you: once standardized, move from time-based billing to delivery-based billing. It'll take you a week to do a community strategy document in the beginning, probably just a couple of days in the end. There's no point, just charging for an entire week and then basically try and find excuses how you filled your hours. So basically just charge them by the delivery, and that's it. 3, brand presence and network. Some up-to-date and consistent online presence is key. Get your social media in order as well. Work with professionals as well. There's so many professionals now that didn't exist 20 years ago. Certainly a lot of people can actually help you. Don't try and, fix it yourself. Try and basically invest in professionals. Provide thought leadership through webinars, podcasts, posts, newsletters, and even good old written materials, books. Anybody remember that? I'm writing one. Consistency and frequency are key things. So, if you're infrequent, you may as well not do. So, if you're just going to do it, just do properly. Network and collaborate with fellow consultants and have an ongoing strategy of identifying and adding potential clients and stakeholders. So Todd, thank you for that, for adding this. It was a suggestion. Definitely, have fellow consultants and other people, professionals on your side, and invest time and energy to participate in select events as a speaker or contributor like this one. Number 4, we go to the finale, have some customer and prospect outreach strategy. So how are you going to find clients? Get your existing network up and basically just leverage it. Are there any companies in your network that are looking to invest in or announcing investments in communities? There are a lot of investments in left, right, and center. So you get your foot in the door and just tell them that you're really interested in helping them harness the power of community. Every company can benefit from it. Make sure your awareness pitch, value proposition, list of services are ready anytime. And many consultants start with an anchor client. Thank you, Todd. First one or one big client that gives you the head start, and try and invest in this project before you make the jump. You may not have an anchor client, but if you have one, things are much easier for you. And of course, enter communities and collectives of clients and generally pass on projects, big or small, that you cannot commit to. The favor will return. So CMX is a great place for that. So some recommendations to follow. Of course, good old Richard Millington, the power of the Brits, the Richard and Jono are, the people that I follow always. All these people are authors. It's not an exhaustive list, of course. There are people before and there are people after. And of course, David, we all know David, and Carrie Melissa Jones, who was the CEO and one of the co-founders of CMX as well. And Carrie is an expert in brand communities and brand community strategy. So definitely all worth a follow and read. Some cool consultant peers to follow, just shouting out. Some of them are friends. Only one I'm doing business with, who. Brian and Erica have got a fantastic, podcast going on in Before the Lock. So definitely just, follow that. And they're wonderful top-level consultants. Katie is I really cannot, say good things enough for Katie. You probably seen her yesterday on stage as well. She's the head of community at Metadata. And, Deb, I believe she's following us as well. She's been doing wonderful work in her community, Find Calm here, and she's focusing on content right now. Some more shout outs to Jenny and Todd. Todd, of course, my partner in talent communities. Jenny is an absolute master of community strategy. Definitely do follow. And, she's somewhere in the crowd as well. If you're, on the ground. Yuri, you probably heard from Yuri yesterday. Yuri's in Ukraine. That's just enough said, about the amazing things that he's doing. And Ella in France, absolute master of open source communities, definitely one other person I can suggest. So nearing the end, do sell the snake oil, just the right one. You just think, what happened to snake oil being a fake? Actually, the Chinese snake oil was supposed to be the water snake oil, which actually contains, 20% of a type of omega-3 fatty acid. So actually, it was supposed to be good for you. And I checked this with my wife, who's got a PhD in nutrition. That is the case. However, dear snake oil sellers were selling the rattlesnake oil, which only had 8.5% of that thing. And certainly that was the reason why. So basically, let's translate that into consultancy work. So if you're going to become a consultant, offer a higher percentage of omega-3. I don't know if that's a good, good thing to do. Some final acts, some do's and don'ts. Again, my experience, see consultancy as a legitimate career and not a side hustle. We do see that, have a lot of patience and perseverance. Return on investment may take a long time and it's a rocky road. But don't give up, but certainly don't expect return that quickly. Update and add new services to your portfolio constantly. A lot of things change and technology and ecosystem are changing by the minute, and you must adapt very, very quickly. And you must build and meticulously maintain a network of professionals that provide complementary services. Don't do everything by yourself. Design, operational delivery, platform provision, and of course, fellow consultants that specialize in other areas. There are many, tons of people who specialize in these areas. Just, get them on board and get things done really, really quickly. And some don'ts, of course. So if you see consultancy as a temp affair or permanent side hustle, temporarily perhaps, but there are a lot of people who just sort of just see it that way on a permanent basis. No, it requires a lot of specialization. I'd love you to become a community consultant, well, at least permanently, or at least, with a great deal of focus. never compromise on ethics, service standards, or force a lock into certain platforms or methodologies. Unfortunately, we do see that. And never stop supporting or collaborating with fellow consultants. The original version of the slide was go behind their backs. Don't do that. Your reputation will always be your best asset. And we are not in the Mos Eisley Cantina. Dun, 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 dun. You probably, that song will run around your head like, for the rest of the day. Speaking of Star Wars, you probably have guessed it, this was all about. The Force will be with you always. So you're probably groaning and saying, oh no, another Star Wars nerding alert. And I am pretty sure that, this guy has got a replica lightsaber in the house. And I do. And it is here. So you must come to the dark side of consulting. So hopefully not. I can't believe I've done that. The reason why, there's something else you probably didn't know, that the original speech, the original script of the Star Wars A New Hope in 1977, that line was the force of others will be with you always. So Star Wars, of all places, of all, movie franchises, it was based on community and, what others can actually do for you. So Chris Taylor, I learned it from him. He's got a wonderful talk at Talks with Google about how Star Wars conquered the universe, the first 10 minutes of the first movie. And that was it. I hope you liked it. And I'd love to, to see what's happening in the chat right now. I'm really, really dreading.
Amazing job, Ilker. Ilker had mentioned before he went on stage there'd be a surprise, and I was waiting and waiting, and it was certainly a surprise, as it was for everyone else in the chat. So fantastic job. We had lots of positive feedback going on, and we did have some questions as well. So I'll try to squeeze in a few, Ilker, if you have a few minutes left. Yeah, sure. Pixie asked, how do you prove your value when you are dependent on the client executing your recommendations, since you can't do the work?
Well, one of the things that you can actually suggest is to be involved in the recruitment and, of course, in the creation of the community team. So if you can actually influence that, then you're able to direct the foundation of the community team, basically, to be able to execute your vision. So that's like one thing. And certainly, again, it's very important. I think it was Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, you just said, whatever you tame, you're sort of responsible for the rest of your life. So one of the mistakes that we do in the community world is that, we try and be very possessive of the lovely things that we build. And, the community projects are no exception. So we need to learn how to let go when we're actually being a consultant. There's a fine line between basically recommending, advising, being a consultant about something, and then basically getting the community, getting the client to execute on your vision, but not being an overpowering helicopter consultant. So it's a fine line, but there's and of course being very frank and very upfront and very concise in the beginning really helps as to where your responsibility ends when the other ones begins. And let the client make mistakes. Is at the end of the day, they're the ones calling the shots and executing on your vision. It's always an opportunity to extend your stay and basically consult them and advise them at regular intervals. This is something that I do. You can create some check-in points like every year or something for where you do a review and some more recommendations.
Great tips. All right, John had asked if there's a directory, magazine, or association for community consulting, and Deb had shared that she's working on starting one and that she leads a group called the Community Consultants Collective. Do you have any other resources to kind of plug for people who are looking for more info there?
Once I was featured at Community Leaders magazine amongst the 22 consultants around the world. Of course, there are more, but Deb's initiative is just wonderful, and I've been a part of it since day one. So Deb, hello. Definitely, that's one directory, one place that you can actually meet fellow consultants. There's no formal association as per yet, but in various Slack spaces there are some focus groups on community consultancy. Certainly, we're easy to spot easy to find. Very happy to connect with you if you're interested in finding these groups. Also on LinkedIn as well. Nothing formal as of yet, but do join Deb's organization or collective, and certainly there are some more to come, or start one, and I'll come and gladly join if you'd like me to.
Great. Well, I think we are at time. So thank you so much. That was so informative and inspiring. Great to hear your story. So if people do want to connect with you or ask you any follow-up questions, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, certainly LinkedIn, I have a peculiar name. There isn't a second Ilker Akansel. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but certainly, you can find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, or anywhere. So definitely, try and connect, and certainly I will do my best to help you, assist you, whatever way in your community consultancy journey or otherwise.
Perfect. Thank you so much.